One of the things I was thinking about is you spoke a lot about the future and the future of the workforce. And in terms of having a vision for what that would look like for HR leaders, can you give a little bit of perspective on what's coming with the future of work for HR leaders?
Well, if you think about what AI is capable of doing, it can automate so many tasks, especially the routine tasks that all of us do. And I'm not talking just about people who do frontline work. It's not just the copywriters and the paralegals and the call centers. It's all of us. We all do a mishmash of routine work that could be automated thanks to AI. And so I think work is going to change because the work itself, the tasks that we do, are going to be automated with generative AI. And so we need to be comfortable with that. When it started, I went through an inventory of all the things I do, and about 70% of what I do, day in, day out, was going to be replaced by AI. I could just use AI to do it in a fraction of the time and much better than I could before. And so I started transforming the way I work by having AI automate many of the tasks that I do. And I'm finding more and more ways to do it, right? So again, how do you incorporate AI to be your assistant, to be your right hand? How do you learn to trust it in particular to do the kind of work? And to do a good job of it too.
It's a big picture change then. It's people will consider that their own roles as HR leaders will change and their whole enterprise will be looking at things differently. So
right.
Huge picture.
We're not treating it as a transformational tool and a transformational force inside of our organizations. We're treating it as a technology that you can pick up and use like a tool here and there, versus having a strategy that will transform your organization to say, how will we use generative AI to change the way we work so that we are able to do completely new and different things that we never thought possible. And so I think it's incumbent on HR to understand, because HR is at the fundamental building blocks of an organization. That's people and the work that the people do. So understanding how work is going to change with AI is fundamental to what HR does.
Do you think there's a missed opportunity for folks that try to do things the way that they've always done them to kind of fall back on the old habits? Is there a missed opportunity there?
I kind of think of it as table stakes. As a starting point, I ask people to use AI to do the things they already know how to do. Once you have that as a foundation, well, what else can you do? So if you're doing writing or research, you can use AI to turbocharge that, but then start using AI as a sounding board, as a thought partner, using it as truly your co-pilot, and the world looks very, very different on the other side.
One of the other things I was thinking about was you talked about the messy middle, that there's going to be a time where we don't necessarily know all the answers. And now maybe like culturally a time that we're all in a messy middle. But do you think those like macro forces are providing a big opportunity for all of us and for HR leaders that think AI could help with this time and place that we are in now?
Absolutely. Again, there are so many uncertainties and messiness, not only just from a technology point of view, economically, politically, again, so much happening in the world. There's just so much turmoil. And I feel that as a leader, the hardest thing is to understand what's really happening out there, to understand what the truth is, right? And so being able to use AI to get more information, more knowledge of what's really going on so that you can make the best decision possible. Why would you deny yourself that? If all that is right there at your fingertips, why would you not look at it and look for it? So I feel like it is this amazing tool that can level up our ability to understand what's going on, to increase our knowledge, and to leverage our expertise in ways that we never could have imagined.
And you mentioned this in the keynote, and now even this, AI can help with decision making. And I think that might be a new concept for a lot of people, because when they think about generative AI, they think maybe that it will help do a task, but also to help elevate thinking to a different level and help make decisions. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Sure. I think the latest model from OpenAI, ChatGPT 401, I mean the names are getting ridiculous, but it's a reasoning engine. And so it doesn't solve things really fast, but it takes multiple steps. It's called chain of thought reasoning. And so you can literally see it understanding your question, a very complex question, understanding the question, doing some research against that, and then trying to figure out what the options are, and then presenting you all the options and pros and cons. So it is reasoning. It is helping you make a decision, to think through something. And so, for example, it can say, look, I'm trying to figure out something. Give me options. Here's my situation. Give me options that I should be considering. What are the pros and cons of those situations? Here's some more information. And I do recommend that whenever you do a prompt of something that's more complex than just tell me a fact, if you ask it to do something that's a bit more complex, ask it to say, before you start, ask me any clarifying questions you may have. Because then you're treating it like a conversation. You're treating the AI as an intelligence that can think through and go like, yeah, I do have some questions. You're not clear about these things. Would you like this or that? How would you like me to approach this? In the same way you would say to a colleague or somebody you're delegating to, you have any questions before you get going? They usually do.
Yeah, that's an interesting point about letting the technology find the holes in your messaging, which is kind of a blindness we all have as writers and communicators. We think we're saying what we mean, but maybe we're not.
Right. I will write something and I'll give it to the AI and I'll go, tell me how it can be improved. And by the way, be kind in your feedback. He's my baby here you're looking at. And I'll say, look at this, and you are going to be reading on behalf of HR professionals who are nervous about AI. How do I communicate this in a way that they can understand it and hear it, and their fear will be lessened? What are the stories I can tell? What are the things I can say? And I use that to actively develop my speaking points, my talking points, the research that I write.
So interesting.
So because I can't necessarily step into those shoes and have empathy for that, but I can ask the AI, if you were an HR professional, what concerns would you have?
That's great advice. And HR professionals can use that for their employees. If you were a given population, where am I missing? And then apply it to a different population, and endlessly.
Well, I know some organizations are now creating focus groups with customers and consumers that are completely synthetically generated. So they give the AI a model, they create a model of different types of customers, and they use that as a digital focus group. You can do the same thing with employees. Like, this is a really good model of what an employee would look like, and so you're thinking about a new approach, a new policy, a new culture initiative. How would they react to it? What are the questions they have? What concerns? Would they believe it or not? So you can do that without, again, I like to say that the possibilities are only limited by our imagination. And what we're lacking right now is imagination and a little bit of courage to go out there and try something that you don't know about. And I believe that confidence comes from knowing that no matter what the outcome is going to be okay. So as long as you know it's going to be safe and it's going to be okay, then give it a try.
That's a good point. I think one of the things that people, I'm hearing a lot, is that people, just us as citizens, not at work, want consumer grade technology that we're used to. We want an Uber, we want Amazon, the app that makes sense. And so people go into work thinking, I do want that, but I do also hear a little bit of resistance about using it at work. And my thought is, and I'll see what you think about this, is that they don't really want the employer to think that they're cheating by using something that's so easy or something that's been given from a third party. Do you feel that there's any truth in that?
Yeah, I get feedback. I get pushback from people. It's like, but if you didn't put the effort into it, does it count?
Yeah.
Right? As someone was saying, if you have a boyfriend or a spouse or something like that, and they wrote a poem with AI, but they didn't struggle to write it, is it as meaningful? And that's a value judgment, right? And so we have to adjust the way we think. And I like to make the analogy. Remember mixtapes?
Yeah.
People make this cassette, totally hard thing to do. Oh, that is a complete act of love. Now get a playlist with somebody.
True.
It may not be as meaningful in some ways, but it's still valuable.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to shift our meaning of what is valuable. We will still always value 100% human made. There'll be a label, I think, of quality. This is 100% human made. But at the same time, we'll put a different type of value that it is AI generated, it is AI assisted, and we'll look at that from a different value perspective to help us do things that we could never have done before.
You've just made me think, we want the transparency to say AI was used here, and that's really important. But when the label becomes it's made by humans, that becomes I think you said it's like the golden or something really special. Labeled made by humans. You heard it here first. Human made.
Human made.
One of the
certified human made.
Yes, certified human made. Right. Maybe we can get into the certification process for that. You've made an avatar, which was great for the keynote. How could HR leaders use avatars? Do you think that this is happening now, and we'll be having more?
Again, think about. All I do is give that avatar a script, and I can have it customize that script for every single different department or team or role inside an organization, so that they hear it. Instead of one message for everybody, you have one message that is sung in different ways, so it's all in harmony, but everybody else hears the exact melody they want to hear, so they can see it.
Great with the languages, actually.
Yeah, and if you're a global organization, I have my avatar speak Spanish, Hindi, and Mandarin. I don't speak any of those fluently. My Mandarin is so bad. My parents wish it could be better, and they love hearing me speak
They're
Mandarin
probably
with my
so
avatar.
impressed.
They're like, oh my goodness, our dreams come true. You speak Mandarin, but it's not really you. So think about the ability to make those kinds of translations, but I also think it's really important to do what I call subtle translations. And that is being able to talk to somebody who's not in HR about HR issues, about what it means to be fair and equitable. And that is something that if you're not in the HR space, you haven't thought about this, you may not understand it. So how can I translate that into a way that you can understand? We work in the same organization, we have the same values, but you work in a different perspective. So I can now create a message that's unique for each person the way that they can hear and understand it. That's powerful type of translation that we never had before.
And it makes me think, and also about communication. And I've wondered when we will get to the point where our communication about AI is more nuanced. Like the word AI is big, and now it's a blanket term for so many specific things. And so really communicating what we're trying to do with it, I think, will be the next level of telling people what it can do.
Right. I'll give an example I think that's really interesting. AI can pick up little nuances of things. For example, microaggressions. Like microaggressions are one of the hardest things for HR to identify and to train. And yet it can be constantly listening, and they can give you feedback like, hey, this conversation, you said this, and that could be perceived as a microaggression. You need to be aware of that. And you see a pattern, then you can go and have some coaching to that person. But it is very, very difficult because everybody thinks they don't have any microaggressions.
Right.
We all do. We all have these biases that we come into. So to be made aware of them and to reduce the risk that an organization has and being able to train for that and tailor it for every single person in the way that they can both effectively hear it, identify it, and then do something about it is unimaginable.
It's fascinating. It is fascinating. Well, is there anything that you'd like to leave behind for our readers that I haven't brought up or that you didn't talk about in the keynote that you think is really important for this population to hear?
I think it's so important for HR to be in the middle of all of this. And it's so easy for HR to say, hey, it's a technology.
Yeah.
You know, we're not technology people. It's actually people. It's a people problem, people issue, people transformation that is happening here. And HR needs to be at the very center of that, not on the sidelines. In fact, HR should be driving this because it's people's jobs, it is their livelihoods, it's their careers, it's the way that we connect with each other that is changing. And so HR needs to lead that.